Hello, and thank you for joining today's webinar. We are ready to begin. Today's webinar is eligible for one contact hour. Sigma Theta Tau International Honor Society of Nursing is accredited as a provider of nursing continuing professional development by the American Nurses Credentialing Center's Commission on Accreditation. The speakers and planning committee members have disclosed no conflict of interest. To receive contact hours for this CPD session, participants are required to attend the webinar and complete the evaluation form, which will be emailed to all attendees approximately 1 week after the webinar. This webinar is being recorded and will be available via the Sigma repository within a few business days of recording. Following the presentations, we will have time for a question and answer session. You'll see on your GoToWebinar control panel that you can send a message through the questions feature. This is where you can type any question you'd like to pose to the presenters. Be sure to hit send so that we can get the message to us. We would like to thank our speaker for sharing their expertise with us today. Our speaker today is Lisa Porter. Lisa Porter is the founder and CEO of JobDocs, a software company specializing in credential documentation, tracking, and storage. The business was created after she recognized an unmet need in the healthcare marketplace, especially nursing, and created the JobDocs solution. She is passionate about process improvement and finding better solutions. She was named Arizona Nurse Entrepreneur of 2019 and sits on the Valley-Wise Health Governing Council with oversight of 13 community health centers. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and thank you so much to our attendees. I am grateful that you're spending your evening with us, and I'm really excited to talk to you. The title of my presentation today, Creating a Business with the Framework of Nursing Knowledge and Passion. I'm going to be able to talk about entrepreneurship, define what it is. I'll share my story of entrepreneurship. We're going to talk about business ideas, if you have one, if you want one, and then I'm going to share some helpful tips for starting a business. And if you have any questions throughout the presentation, we'll do a Q&A at the end, and if there's anything that's urgent, you could send it to the organizer as well. What I'd like for you to learn in this webinar is to be able to define entrepreneurship and identify the key characteristics of nurses that benefit entrepreneurship. I'd like you to be comfortable with a business plan tool that I'm going to share with you, and then I'm going to go over the basic steps in starting a business. So what is an entrepreneur? I know this is a term that is getting a lot of noise and there's a lot of buzz around it, but really the term entrepreneur has been around for 200 years. I think the first time it was in the English language was 1752, and it referred to a businessman. Merriam-Webster defines it as one who organizes, manages, and assumes the risks of a business or enterprise. And that's the basic all-around definition. You know, it's someone who starts and opens and runs the business. Now, Investopedia is a business site, and I really like their definition because they define an entrepreneur as an individual who creates a new business, bearing most of the risk and enjoying most of the rewards. The process of setting up a business is known as entrepreneurship. The entrepreneur is commonly seen as the innovator for new ideas, goods, services, and business or procedures. So to take it a little further, let's talk about a nurse entrepreneur. Now, this definition is a little different. So I went through a couple of different websites and books and resources and even did a lit search and combined it to a nurse who creates a product, a service, or a technology for patients, caregivers, healthcare workers, or to improve a process. Now, that's not to say that everything, that a nurse entrepreneur can't also be a realtor or start a different kind of business. And I'm going to go along, be able to share some of the characteristics in nursing that really benefit that as well. I will call myself an accidental nurse entrepreneur. I started my company in 2016, and I knew that there was a gap in the marketplace because I wanted to organize my licenses and certifications and be reminded when everything expired, and keep track of my continuing professional development hours. And I wanted an app to do it, and I found some that were, a little clunky, but they weren't secure. And I thought, I don't know about all this. So I went through the path of developing a product. Well, as I went through this process of developing the product, I got to a point where I said, I don't know what to do next. What would I do next? And that's what I'm going to share with you. And hopefully there's going to be some input that you can take back with you, and I can save you some of the steps and the hard work that I didn't even know to find. I didn't even know really that I was an entrepreneur until I was going through this process. So I hope that I'll be able to share that with you. So why would someone be an entrepreneur? Why entrepreneurship? Is it because they want to follow a passion or to solve a problem? They want to be independent and not work for someone else. That's very common. They want to be their own boss. They want to have flexibility, flexibility with their hours, or so they hope, or their schedule. And now in this technology, digital connected world, so many things we can do anywhere. And it could be because of the financial benefits that come along with entrepreneurship, not getting back directly the hard work that you're putting into it. So in preparation for this presentation, I was looking, and I know about all these different characteristics of an entrepreneur. So I came up with 20 that I found from different sites, and I sent them to some entrepreneurs I know, some entrepreneurs that I didn't know, and I got back 18 responses. And I said, I'd like to know what the top 5 characteristics are of an entrepreneur. And almost every single one of them was marked, but I wanted the top 5. So at one point I said, let's see how these correspond with nursing. So the top 5 characteristics of an entrepreneur were passion, being self-motivated, communicative, have confidence, and be resourceful. And what that said to me was, nurses are inherently entrepreneurs. They're problem solvers. They're wanting to make things better. But it's really, truly that passion. Passion was the number 1, and it was passion you have to have passion for your idea. You have to have passion for the business you create. You want to have passion with the team members that you have. If you have other people working with you, you want to have passion for the customers or the patients that you serve. But when it's a business, they're customers. So I was just thrilled to see that and thought nursing is a great place for entrepreneurship. And in the Harvard Business Review, which is a very big business magazine, journal, and they wrote about entrepreneurship and passion. So when we talk about the balance between entrepreneur experience, which are the hard skills, and passion and vision, the soft skills, there's a sweet spot where magic seems to happen. They also mention that knowledge, skills, and passion are equally important for succeeding as a new venture. And remember that gaining knowledge and skills can be learned. Passion is within us. A lot of times nurses will come to me at either events or, just in conversation. And, when we talk about nurse entrepreneurship, and they say, I wish that I had a business idea. And, some people, they have the idea and then they move forward, but they want to be entrepreneurs. They want to be innovators and move forward with that. So some of the suggestions that I give are, what are your passions? Do you have a passion? Do you have a passion for baking or cooking or gardening or carpentry or home improvements? Is there something a hobby that you have that you're passionate about? Can you turn that into a business? Let's talk about, how about if you have a passion for cooking, could it be meal prep for heart failure patients? Or even doing a gardening course that's local in your area. If you're an avid gardener, be able to share with families, these are the things that the healthy foods, fruits and vegetables that you could plant to share with, your families and get the children involved, and then even follow it up with a cooking class. Now, what I will say, and this isn't for me because my business wasn't from a passion, because I don't have a passion for, organizing paperwork. But from what I've heard, for people on passion projects related to a hobby, at some point it's not a hobby anymore, and it is the business. So you might have to find a new hobby or find a different business. The other thing, if you don't have so many times people say, I wish I had that passion. I wish I had that passion. We have knowledge. We have clinical skills that we can use. Clinical skills as far as, a patient, so much of care now is going to be focused on in-home care. Are there things that you can do to help that transition? Or, just adaptability? Are there tools, for stroke patients, in their house? And even though you aren't a physical therapist, you could work with a team and go in and use your nursing knowledge and skills to build a business. And the other thing that you can do, which is what I did, I looked for problems and solved them. So if entrepreneurship isn't for you, as we go through this and you say, I don't think entrepreneurship is going to be for me, I don't want to run a business, but you like to look for problems and solutions. Well, if you're working for a company, whether it's a hospital or a healthcare agency or, anything, any job that we do, there's another term, and it's called entrepreneurship, where you're going to be able to take the tools that we talk about being an entrepreneur and be able to take those back to your company. If you have an idea, and how would it move forward? If your company has a innovation department, or if they have, project management with process improvements, if you notice a problem, come to them with a solution and some of the answers that we're going to talk about today. And that would be an entrepreneurial venture. You could partner with them or just do it as an employee and use the resources that they have. And the biggest thing to remember is that nurses are subject matter experts. We know our stuff. We might not all know the same thing, but there are certain things. We have our little niche that we like to fit into. So whatever it is that you love, if you love educating on diabetes or anything like that, see, is there something, could you be a coach? Could you be a meal planner or a meal prepper for those kind of things? And you can start a business around that. So let's talk about some of the first steps. So either you have the business idea or you're thinking about a business idea. And you can even, make a list of, if you don't have one cemented, make a list of 2 or 3 different things. And then start doing market research. Nurses are excellent researchers. I think we get quicker and better every time we go back to school. But there are great, easy, free ways to do market research. You want to know, who are your customers? Who are the people that you're going to be serving? You also want to know, where are they? And how am I going to find them? So there are a couple of different things that you can do with market research. Like, let's say, for example, that you want to start a physical fitness course for seniors for heart health. who are your customers? Where are they? A good place to target would be, retirement communities. Is that something they would be interested in? Or could you partner with physician or provider clinics, and especially the large ones that have large populations? Is that something that they would be interested in doing? And could we go from there? And one of the ways that I did market research, because I didn't really know exactly what I was doing at the time, but I said, before I start off on this, I should probably do some research. And what I did was surveys. And in this age of technology, there are great places to create surveys, either in Google Forms, or there's another website called Typeform. I think it's Typeform, Type form.com, and it's free. You can make them on, from a 0 to 10 scale, multiple choice, all different things. And you can email them to people, you can print them off and have them, just circle through, just so that are you on the right track? And then you also want to know, is there competition for what you want to do? Competition is a good thing, because that means that people are willing to pay for the idea or the solution that you're going to provide. But what is it that's going to make you different? What's going to be your competitive advantage? How can you take those things and say, this is how I can do it better? And to talk about competition, we're going to talk about burgers. So this may seem a little different, but if you think, oh my gosh, I don't know, there's someone else doing this, I just want to remind you that these are the biggies. And let's talk about burger competition. So White Castle, fun fact, the oldest fast food chain, it was started in 1921. So they made little burgers. Then McDonald's, and I don't know if this is what they looked like when they started, and then McDonald's, you know what, we're going to make bigger burgers. And that was in 1940. Then In-N-Out, In-N-Out Burger, primarily on the West Coast. I don't think there are any Midwest or East Coast In-N-Outs. In 1948, they said, we're going to do a drive-through. That was their competitive advantage. Now, Jack in the Box in 1951 said, we're going to have a drive-through and an intercom so they can talk to us. And that was their competitive advantage. Well, Burger King jumps in 1954 and says, we are going to flame broil our burgers. So if you live in a large city, you have access to any of these chains. You have one that you prefer and your definite reasons why. And that's the thing. People like different things. So competition is a good thing. Plus, it lets you know that someone is willing to pay for your solution or service. So when it comes to a business plan, so you've had your idea, you've done your research, the days of the 25 to 30 page business plans, that's not really common anymore. We've transitioned to a format of what we call the lean canvas. And this document here can be accessed at the website that's printed on the slide, and it's free. You can go in, you can add it, you can change things, but it's really sectioned off into blocks to help you talk about what are the things that we need to what are the things I need to be thinking about as I move forward in a business? And these are all things that you can do before you've even spent any money. So you want to be able to identify the problem that you're solving with your business. Is it, that people want a flame broiled burger or something like that? But, when it comes to what is the problem that people are going to pay you to solve, that's when it comes into a business. What is the solution that you are going to provide? If the problem is home care, the solution is, what kind of home care do you want to provide? What's the solution that you have? And if you go over to the right-hand side, you see the column for customer. Well, you want to think about who is your target customer and what different segments can they fall into. If we go back into the senior citizens fitness classes, could the customers be, are they, active seniors? Are they, seniors who have done rehab and want a little bit more? Where are those customers? And then unique value proposition. That is the compelling statement that's going to set you apart. What is the thing that you are offering that makes you valuable? And going into the unfair advantage, when it's talking about business, one of the unfair advantages, because so much of what I did it was just in business world, not healthcare world. The unfair advantage that I had was I was the target customer. I was a nurse, and, these people were my peers. I knew the struggles that they were having. And it could be with anything else. Unfair advantages can really, what's the secret sauce that's going to set you apart from other people? Going down to the bottom, we talk about revenue streams. What are the things that are going to bring revenue and bring the dollars into your business? Because it's those dollars that are going to help propel your business even further. What are the different ways that you can gain revenue? If you want to, if you have a home care, or if you're teaching classes, if you want to teach a course on aromatherapy, do you want to have a supplemental revenue stream of also, selling the product there as well? It can be, with essential oils. Could you do that? Is that an additional revenue stream? Or can you, is it through advertising or partnerships or things like that? You really want to talk about the channels. And the channels, that's the path to your customers. How are we going to get there? Do we need to market on social media? Do we need to market by email? Do we need to market by mail? Do we need to go into provider offices or something so that we can, hospitals, so that we can reach the customers that we want to serve? And then what are the key metrics that you're going to be following, the KPIs? Key metrics is the term they use. KPIs was what I used because that made more sense to me. That's what I knew. What are the key performance indicators that are going to let you know that you've done a good job? Is it going to be number of customers? Is it going to be number of sessions? Is it going to be dollars? Will it be units purchased? You need to decide for your business what's going to fit in well for you. And then the cost structure. What are the fixed costs? What are the variable costs that you could see that come along with, running a business? And you might not know all of those. And that's why it's really important. I'm going to move on to the next slide here. It's really important to find business mentorship. And it's excellent if you can to find business mentorship, especially in the field, from someone who has done or has experience in what you're doing. And you can do that through your established network. You can do that through professional organizations like Sigma Nursing. You can do it through new connections by reaching out to people, on LinkedIn. I have people reach out to me. I'm not always the best at responding, but I try my best. And I've reached out to people, and sometimes, just a conversation. If you've read an article that they've written, especially a journal article or a published article, reach out to them. And if you have a question about it, they're usually more than happy to answer. And it could be a really great connection. You can also find business mentors, and there are companies that specialize in business mentorship. The Small Business Administration has groups that do that. The Better Business Bureau has business mentors. There's also business events that you can go to where you can meet people that want to mentor. And also in LinkedIn, if you're in search of a mentor, that's something that you can do as well. What I did is I found a business incubator. So, and it was a local, it was funded by my city. So I did not have to pay for it. It was, they were funding because they really want to support small business in our city. But there are so many business incubators. There are healthcare incubators. There are nurse incubators. And what it is where it takes you from idea and helps you grow, and the concept of the incubator, and you will learn so much. And if you want someone to really help guide you through the step-by-step, that's a great place to go. And that was something, because all I knew was healthcare. Since I was 21 years old, I've had some kind of job in healthcare, and I didn't understand, when they talked about customer acquisition. I thought, well, my background is ER, so they would come in ambulances. That's how my customer acquisition. And there was so much more to that I learned throughout the process. And oftentimes universities have incubators. They also have accelerators where if you already have a business that's a scalable business that can grow, they can help you with that. And there are so many programs that are out there. You just check your local area, and there's some that are fantastic that have incubators to help you create products or create the business. And there are even degreed programs now in health entrepreneurship, if that was something that you wanted to do. And another great resource is through your local chamber of commerce, especially if you want to develop a local business. That is a great place to go. Be registered, sign up, become a member of the Chamber of Commerce. You can attend their events and network with those people who also have great networks. But there's so many different places to find mentorship, and it is key. So I'm going to take a drink, sorry, pardon me. So what I'd like to talk about now is moving forward. What are the next steps? So you have, kind of solidified your idea. You've worked through, a business model canvas, or at least a little bit. Nothing has to be perfect. And that, do it in pencil, print it out and do it in pencil and erase it and change things all the time. And you've found mentorship. You've found the people who are able to help you get where you need to go. And if you want to proceed now, the initial steps of starting a business. And these are just the initial steps, and these are things that you can do on your own. So one of the things I'd really like to talk about is selecting a business name and a domain name. So when and it can be for any business. So it's so helpful if you can find a domain name that matches the name of your business. It's great for your customers. But what you want to check as well as do a US patent and trademark search. So if you just type in USPTO, that will take you so that you can search their database. Because if you name your business something that already has a name, they can come back to you. They already have a trademark. So you can actually be far along in a business and have to change everything or shut down or pay fines because you've used someone else's name. So it's kind of those first those steps, selecting the business name, domain name, and doing a trademark search, the trade name. That's kind of all together. Like, find out what it is that you want. And the domain name, if you can get a .com, people know that, but you can also buy, our website is .net because someone else owns the .com. JobDocs, I own JobDocs.net and he owns JobDocs.com. Well, I hold the trademark for the JobDocs name. So I have a Google alert set up. So if it's ever used in commercial, for commercial use, then I'll be triggered and I will call my attorney and take care of that. I did reach out to him and asked if he would sell it to me, and that didn't happen. So, well, it could happen, but for a sum that I wasn't willing to spend yet. So you have that set up. So you find something there. And then you want to, think about web hosting. So you have your website and who's going to host it? And then on your website, how are you going to build it? Well, it's so great now. There's kind of one-stop shops. A couple of them are GoDaddy or Wix.com, and you can do everything there. They will host your site. They will create your website. You can also do your own websites in like WordPress, but I would make sure that wherever you're going to host, whether it's through, GoDaddy or Wix or anywhere, Amazon Web Services, whatever platform you're doing, that they interact so that there aren't any glitches in between that. And oftentimes you'll get a free email. And the cost of this, you can do all of that for, I think $10 a month. just to start. So it's very inexpensive in the beginning to start. Now, you'll also need to think about business formation, and I'm going to get into that with the next slide. But what are the other things that you want to do? Do you want to have social media accounts? But you'd want to have social media business accounts, and that'll be something that we'll wait for the next slide as well. You'll also want to have a business phone number. And something that's great now that they didn't have when I started was you can direct multiple lines to your same phone. So you can have your business line on the same as your personal line, so you're only carrying one phone and you can do all your business. And do you need a business address? For a lot of things, you do need a business address. Sorry, I didn't silence my phone. Can you do a PO box? Because oftentimes you don't want to give up your home address, but you can do a PO box. And at post offices, they also have, you can make it a street address for the post office if you let them know. And then there are other places, mailboxes and more places like that have real street addresses also. And these are all things that you can do on your own. There are certain times, though, when we really need to call in the experts. And I mean, legal is the big one, especially for setting up your business. There are different ways to set up your business. It can be a DBA, which is a doing business as, and I have a line through that because I wouldn't recommend anyone have that. When I was early on, before I knew the steps to take, that's how I set up my business and learned that that was not going to work. So I had to change everything and went through an LLC. For small businesses, it's oftentimes an LLC. And that can be set up, businesses and all kinds of different services, even very large companies are LLCs. Or does it need to be a corporation, or are you running a nonprofit? And you can have either an attorney, or there is a company called LegalZoom, and you can do a lot of those things through them. And they also have experts that you can talk to as well. Things that you'll need legal for are on your website, or will you need to have a privacy policy? Will you need to have terms of service drawn up? Will you need to worry about creating contracts? And that can be contracts with customers. It could be contracts with employees or with vendors. Those are things that you really want to have some legal insight to as well. Another big part is if you are thinking about starting a business venture, make sure that there is not a conflict of interest with your current employer. And one of the ways to do that is to look at your employee manual. This is something that I did with an attorney, though, because we wanted to make sure. But before that, what I had done is I emailed in my chain of command. I went to my director and, asked if I needed to let anyone else know, and we took it from there. But you want to make sure that there's nothing in your current employment that is going to interfere with the new business that you're creating, and vice versa. Do they have a policy where if you create a business where you're in their employ, that they will keep 5 to 10% or more of an idea that you have while you're working there? That's just something to really be attentive to. And that goes also if you are at a university as well. You'll need someone to help with taxes, whether it's your CPA or an accountant, because you'll want to know, how is it that I set up, my taxes? And you'll need an EIN number, your employer identification number. And you need these things to set up a lot of other things like your business social media accounts and phones and things like that. You'll also want to have a business bank account. And my recommendation is when you start a business, you start your business bank account and put a set amount of money in there, and just go from there. Don't interact, don't have things kind of commingle, because as you get further along, that's a little more challenging to keep separate. And it doesn't have to be fancy. You can get your business bank account. You can keep things on an Excel spreadsheet, and just write the date, what it cost, who it went to, and for what. And that'll really be helpful when it comes to doing your taxes if you don't use accounting software like QuickBooks or something like that. Now, business license and permits, that is state dependent. Do you need to be registered with your city? Do you need to be registered with your county and with your state? And that's something that a simple Google search, do your state name. I'm in Arizona, so it would be Arizona business license. And, they would take you to the website as far as, going through there, and only go off the ones that follow in .gov, because those are the ones that are going to be important to you. So again, you might be saying, why I want to do this, I want to be an entrepreneur, but I want to make sure that you know things why not to proceed as an entrepreneur. If there is a large amount of risk, whether it's your time, your money, so much is at risk, and that was a big change. Going from, hospital healthcare, where, being so risk averse, to going into entrepreneurship, where a lot of it was risk taking. That was a real big shift, and something that didn't really come easily, but it gets easier. And, the responsibility that you have as a business owner, you are responsible. You're responsible for your employees, for your customers, for all the content that you put out there. Is that the responsibility that you want to have, or would you rather someone else have it, which would be a great place for entrepreneurship. When you start a business, excuse me, again, a lot of talking, there is no guaranteed income. You could start all of this and spend a lot of money and not make any money. And depending on your family situation, what kind of savings, what really be comfortable in your own financial situation to know how far is it that I will go. And is that comfortable for my family and for what I need to do? Because, or you never know, you might start off from day one making money, and, there's no problem with that at all. Work-life balance. When you are a business owner, it is 24/7. You're always on call. You don't get the double time for on-call pay, but creating that work-life balance can sometimes be very challenging, even to the point of, planning vacations. Every vacation, you have to have really good Wi-Fi access. There are certain things, that your thoughts will change. And entrepreneurship, it can be very lonely. If you decide to, leave the job that you have, where you're going to working with people and going to doing so much of it, just grinding it out on your own and doing the work there, it can be very lonely. And the stress, I looked up the statistics for entrepreneur stress levels, and actually they are almost the same as nurse stress levels. So we're right there about 50%, having some real issues with stress, as far as anxiety and depression. And, the loneliness doesn't help with that at all. But that's why it is so important to create an excellent support system, whether it is your family, whether it's coworkers, or the coworkers might not support you anymore if you venture out on your own. But find your tribe, find the mentors and people that will support you as you venture out into an entrepreneurial journey. So some of the roles of the entrepreneur, you're going to be wearing a lot of hats. And if you've ever said, oh my gosh, I wish there were 12 of me, that is a lot of times how it happens, because you are doing it all. But at some point, after you start your business, it's not just that. You get people to help you. You get people that want to come on board with your team and grow your business. And the key success of team members is that they share the passion for what you're doing and share the vision of where you want your business to go. If you can find team members that really bring that to the table, especially if they have complementary skills, sometimes it's not best to have someone who's just like you to work with, but to have people that to work with people that offset you. And that's great. And what I will share based on my story, and this is one of my favorite quotes, is that everything is figure outable. And there's so many resources that are out there. And I hope that if you are on a venture to start something, or you want to, have that little spark ignited to become an entrepreneur, or you have an idea, that you're ruminating on, that I've given you some tools to move forward with that. So with that, I think that we can open for questions and answers. And I appreciate your time of listening, and I would love to hear your questions or comments.
Yes, Lisa, thank you so much. We do have a few questions. The first one is, are we able to get a copy of your slides?
Yes.
So,
If Sigma can, well, if you email me, if it's okay with Sigma.
yes, of course, they can email you directly, or they will
Sure.
also be loaded with the Sigma repository when we load your presentation.
Okay, perfect.
The second question is, how soon after starting the business did you develop your app, and what steps did you take to develop the app?
Okay, so for me, what I did is I had an idea, like this is what I wanted to do, and I could really envision exactly all of the steps that I wanted the Job Docs app to take. And so I really just did a Google search. That was the first thing that I did. I said, how do you make an app? Because I'm not a coder, I'm not a web developer. How do you do this? And I was reading through, and it said, okay, well, you hire a company, and it took me to a calculator, and I wanted this. Do you want email? Yes. Do you want a calendar? Yes. Do you want, all of these things? And it was a huge amount of money. And I said, well, I can't do that. So then I started looking at other ways to do it. And I found out about business competitions. And that's something that as you go through an incubator, you learn that too. I just found it kind of accidentally. And in that application, they asked me the questions that are on the one-page business plan, just in, kind of different terms. But it was all of those questions exactly. We're looking back on it even now, and I never thought about this. Could they pick out keywords and plug that into a business model canvas? So I entered a competition where you had to answer the questions. It was very lengthy. And as far as they asked, what is your business acumen? And I didn't have a great response. I knew a lot about customer service. I knew a lot about that end, but I didn't have a lot. And that was definitely my deficiency. We did a interview as I made it, but I did well in the competition because I was able to kind of have a grasp of what it was and draw out every step that it needed to take. And I did well, but I was severely lacking in the business acumen. I didn't have a good concept of that. So when I went to the final pitch event, and it was in Dallas. And when I got there, I said, I don't know if I can do this, but I knew that I had something that I needed to go forward with. So I said, okay, how do we have this? So I was able to find a developer. It was very challenging, but through a referral, found someone who was able to develop exactly what I wanted. But it was a very tedious task. And then as it was through development, that's when I said, I have this app, I don't know what to do next. And that's when I found out about business incubators. I started going to, any day I wasn't working, I would find a class, a course, an event that was free that I could go to, because I didn't want to spend any money if I didn't have to. I hope I answered that question. Oh, but as far as the time, from initial idea inception to release, it was about, I think it was 16 months, but from start, and that was just from the idea, from the start of development to our first release, it was 8 months. And a lot of that, my software engineer, he said I was way too picky, and he would get, he said, this typically isn't how you do it. You would just want to get it out there early, but I was picky. So it probably could have been done in 4 months. I hope I answered that question.
I think you have the right to be picky.
Yes.
So, in regards to the app, there's another question. Did you use
Yes.
code in your app or no code?
Code.
Okay. Somebody wanted to say thank you. This was very inspiring, and their creative juices are flowing.
And I appreciate that. And that is exactly what I was hoping for. And I hope that I've given some tools to help make that, a little easier, make the transition there.
And so, with that being said, there's a question if they can connect with you via LinkedIn. And then
Yes.
also, someone else wants to know if you mentor as well.
I do. I do. And you can connect on LinkedIn. I'm not a professional mentor, but if you have questions, if there are things that, I can help to guide you through, I would be happy to do that if time permits. There are certain things based on certain businesses as well that I could probably direct you. In this presentation, it almost has to be a little bit, I don't want to say generic, but just, high level, of just saying, let's just do an overview, but I might be able to direct people to other places as well. So yes, absolutely. I'm Lisa Porter on LinkedIn, and I look like this, I think.
How do you forecast for items within your business plan?
So that there is like financial forecasting, that is almost a different plan that's there. But when you go through, like in the business model canvas, when you're talking about, what are the fixed costs and what are the variable costs, there are spreadsheets that help you go through that. What is it that you're spending to get each customer? How many customers do you want? What is it that you can spend on marketing? If I spend this much on marketing, this is, what we have. But a lot of it is just a forecast. And, you go based on, the revenue from one customer, and then, multiply it by 10 or 100 or 1,000 or whatever order it's going to be in. But financial forecasting is very challenging. And I seek out expert help on that as well.
We have a couple questions. Actually, we have quite a few more questions. They're all very engaged, but
Okay,
you
great.
recommend LLC versus others?
Yeah, so a DBA would not have worked for me because I wanted to keep my business separate from my personal, and a DBA, doing business as, does not do that. So I formed an LLC. Now, when it comes into an S Corp or a C Corp, those are very differentiated. If we take investor dollars, we'll need to transition into a C Corp, but it's not difficult. And then nonprofit, I have zero knowledge about nonprofits, except that I know that it's set up and created differently. So that's something that you could talk to either an attorney or the Small Business Administration, what will be right for you. And it's almost like a checklist, like, how do you want this? What is it that the steps that you need to take to go through there? But we have an LLC.
So we have a participant that has newly formed an LLC and would like some advice from you as she's struggling with her website. She says, I approached 3 people/companies and they are charging an arm and a leg to set up my website and maintain it. Is GoDaddy really very user-friendly? I'm not very tech savvy.
Yes, especially if there are. Now, if you go through GoDaddy or Wix.com or any, WordPress, they have made websites now that are so plug and play that are very simple if you have the patience and the energy and the time to go through the plug and play of that, it can be very easy. But yes, website creation is very expensive. And there are so many different companies to do it yourself. A great thing that I would recommend is, if you know someone local, if you scroll down to the bottom of a website, it'll say, powered by Wix.com or something like that. Just reach out to them and say, if it's a small business, I'd love to ask you a question about your website. And there are people also that will consult with you as far where they don't have to make it. If you have the ability to do that yourself, website creation, as long as there isn't anything that's too fancy that's built in there, it is really plug and play. And from the time when I started to now, it has come just leaps and bounds.
Very
I hope
good.
that answered that question.
How do you market your, or who do you market your app to? Companies or small businesses?
So we do two different ways. It's because our app is right now it's for individuals, so it's individual customers. So it can be, and the way that we made the Job Docs app is it's for nurses, but it can also be because that's me. Those are my people. But as we went through the process, we understood that there are other people that have to maintain these as well. So it's every healthcare worker, it's teachers, real estate agents, fitness participants, physicians. We have a company that they are restoration, they do restoration construction because they have to keep track of their mold remediation, and that's very important to them. But we can also market to businesses as well, where we can sell a certain number of licenses that then they provide to their customers, or to their employees, I'm sorry. And I'm going to go again with that a little bit more. And as far as marketing, like how is it, there was an article that I skimmed through because I wanted to really get some research data because I love the data. And so I did a lit search, and nurse entrepreneurship, there's not a lot of published information that's out there, but I did find a study that was done of nurse entrepreneurs who were also working in hospitals at the same time. And the number one kind of challenge that they had was with marketing. And that goes back to, who are your customers and where are they? So I went to conferences, we do, universities. Things really changed since March of last year. But there are, people that you can partner with. Can you do a discount for their members? And that's what we've done that with Sigma Nursing. Or is it a university where their students pay a certain price on their own, and then when they graduate it goes up to the next level. But marketing is very challenging, and I think it's just that way. I don't think it's just nurse entrepreneurs. I think it's all entrepreneurs.
How is building a business based on services going to be different than one based on products? Specifically, is there a framework difference in the building portion?
Ours is a product and a service kind of together, but I do think that you should seek out some expert in the service line. But so much of it is the same. But as far as business creation, the steps that you take when it's a service, you still want to know what's the problem that you're solving that people are going to pay for? Who are your customers going to be? How are you going to make money and generate revenue on that? And what are the costs that are going to be associated with that? So as far as services, that would also go along with, is there a service that you need extra insurance for? And I apologize, I thought that was on a slide, but I don't remember saying that. Is there, are there certain permits or insurances that you have to have? So I would seek out a professional or get a one-time consultant with a business coach as far as business development for that.
Can you elaborate more on the P.O. box aspect of business? Specifically, did I get it right when you said you can ask for a street address as a business address from the postal office? I'm not sure if I heard that correctly.
Yes, you did hear that correctly. So if you go to your post office and you want to request a P.O. box, I recommend going to the counter, not the kiosk for this. Kiosks are great for everything else. But so say your post office, so for my company, we are P.O. Box 6157, but the street address is 1837 East Carla Vista Drive, number 6157. So they can also do things a little bit different. That's just how we have ours. I get such a tiny amount of business mail. Everything now is email and it's electronic. I get very, very little business mail. But yes, that's what you can do so it doesn't look like a P.O. box. And there are small places, if you don't have a post office near you, like in where I live, it's mailboxes and more. I think UPS stores offer mailboxes as well, P.O. boxes, and you can do street addresses for that also.
Just
Hope that
a
helps.
just a couple more questions. How do you have any suggestions for a nurse who would like to start a part-time business doing private duty home care, solo for now?
Yeah, I mean, my recommendations, I think that's great. And I think that if that's something that you want to do, create a bit, just the basic steps of creating the business. And all it would take is one customer, but make sure that you have, the things in place, especially, with your insurance, with malpractice insurance, that there's nothing, do you need a medical director if you're doing private duty? Are you doing IV medications? Do you need a medical director? And that can be, in certain states, that can be a nurse practitioner, or in certain states it has, depending on your state laws with advanced practice nursing. But I think that's a great idea. So much is going to home nursing, concierge nursing, but you could set it up yourself. But go along with, make sure that you follow the legal aspects of that with the contracts. What is it that you're contracting to? What insurance does there? Make sure that you understand if you get injured in their home, is that their homeowner's insurance that would cover that? Is it your malpractice insurance? Do you get a secondary policy for that? Those are questions I don't have the answers for, but I would seek that out, and I think it's great. I think anything that we can do to take care of our loved ones at home rather than in the hospital is amazing. And go you.
All right, Lisa, let's do maybe two more questions.
Okay.
Do you recommend physical business cards, or is there everything moving to electronic, or both?
Both. There are business cards are really, it's handy. It's nice. Sometimes if you're in a hurry, so many people just connect with you on LinkedIn. They can, scan it. A great thing to do, though, is to have a business card. And if now I think we're all familiar with QR codes. They've been around forever, but people didn't use them. Put the QR code to your website on the back of your business card, and that way. And if you don't know, I'm sorry, I don't have an example of a QR code, but it's the little squiggly box with all the little dots. If you open your camera and point it at that, it could take them wherever you want it. And there is a website called QR Code Generator, and it's free, and you can make a QR code for any website for anything that you want, and it can direct you there. So yes, and then but I do like business cards too.
Do you recommend entrepreneurs carry some sort of malpractice insurance if they are using their nursing credentials as part of their marketing, say as a health coach?
As far as that, I don't, if you're a health coach, I would say absolutely, because you are acting as a nurse to, yeah, and you're doing something that is in service to someone who is your customer is also a patient, or not really, because it can be just for that. I would definitely recommend it. That also to me is, I'm quite risk averse, so I would rather be protected than not. But I think that it benefits you greatly, because I mean, I can just see so many things that could go wrong with that, and I want to make sure that you're protected.
Unfortunately, we weren't able to get to all the questions today, so feel free to reach out to Lisa via her contact information on the screen. Thank you so much, Lisa, today for all of your great information. Sigma
Oh,
is
it's
grateful. Yeah.
yes, my pleasure. And thank you all for your questions.
Sigma is grateful that you took the time to share with this audience and look forward to hearing more from you in the future. We hope you enjoyed this webinar. As a reminder, 1 week from today, we will email you a link to an evaluation for you to obtain your continuing professional development certificate. Be sure to check out Sigma's upcoming webinars, podcasts, and resources to support you and your colleagues at sigmanursing.org. Also, previously recorded webinars and podcasts are freely available on the Sigma repository. Thank you for joining us today, and have a wonderful day.
Are we done?